poison the enemy.
So he's actually acting like we would expect someone in this era to act. He's gonna do whatever it takes, even if it resorts to poisoning the enemy.
Samurai pride themselves on their honor code.
Uh-oh. Samurai honor code. No such thing, really, at this point in history.
He will make you samurai.
The word samurai is actually probably a bit of an anachronism here. Hi Gamology, today we're going to be looking at Ghost of Tsushima. My name is Michael Crandol and I'm an assistant professor of Japanese studies at Leiden University in the Netherlands, where I teach classes on Japanese ghosts and monsters and Japanese film and all kinds of fun stuff like that. So let's go ahead and jump on into the game.
Jin Sakai.
All right, so yeah, we got two soldiers here. One obviously rank and file. The other one is obviously somewhat important. You can tell by his armor, general or other high-ranking soldier, because that kind of armor would have been very expensive, very precious. Not just anybody would have been able to afford that. So the mask and the helmet and so forth says this is somebody of high rank and very, very accurate in terms of the details. This doesn't look like fantasy armor to me. This looks like something you might see in a museum.
My men might be interested.
Your men.
I look out for them. Someone has to.
And we're fighting the Mongols, who famously tried to invade Japan twice in the late 1200s and failed both times, but they did take the island of Tsushima, which is where this is taking place. So Tsushima is a small island in between Japan and Korea, and the Mongols used it as a staging ground for their attempted invasion of the Japanese mainland. So these guys, unless the game is going to play fast and loose with historical facts, these guys are gonna lose in their defense of the island, which is very kind of quintessentially a Japanese storytelling thing to do. Japanese literature, history, film, performing arts, it's full of stories about people who fight lost causes, impossible battles, and they face it bravely. Japanese culture is full of these types of stories. So setting a story here for your game that is kind of in a very venerable Japanese storytelling tradition. So the Mongols attempted to invade and conquer Japan twice. The first time was in 1274, and supposedly they landed on Tsushima with 8,000 men on 900 ships, which is a lot. I don't know if that's actually true. It's probably exaggerated, but it was certainly a huge army. And from Tsushima, they went on to try and capture the Japanese mainland, and their fleet was famously wiped out by a storm. A couple of years later, the Mongols regroup, they try again, and the same thing happens. A freak storm wipes out their armada. So these storms become known in Japanese history as the kamikaze, or the divine winds. Nowadays, we associate the word kamikaze with the fighter pilots in World War II, but there won't be any kamikaze to save our heroes, unfortunately, unless the game decides to drastically change Japanese history.
Help me save my uncle, and he will reward your men. He will make you samurai.
The word samurai is actually probably a bit of an anachronism here. There was a warrior class at this time. They became what we would now call samurai, but back in this era, they would not have used that word. They would have referred to themselves as bushi, or warriors.
We were friends a lifetime ago.
So it looks like they've got the Obon lanterns in the water. Obon Festival, Festival of the Dead, which is held in the summertime. When you close the Festival of the Dead, you put these little lanterns on and you float them out in the river, representing the souls of the dead going back home when they float away. So nice evocative touch there.
Samurai pride themselves on their honor code.
Uh-oh. Samurai honor code. No such thing, really, at this point in history. So the warrior's code, Bushido, the way of the warrior that we all associate with samurai, that idea doesn't really come about and coalesce until several hundred years after this game takes place. The idea that samurai have this rigid code of honor that they must live and die by, that really is something that comes about 300-400 years after this game is supposedly taking place. Samurai in this era, or Bushi in this era, they wouldn't have used the word samurai. I mean, they certainly had a sense of honor, but the goal was to win the battle. They would do whatever they had to do to win the battle. The idea that these people can expect the samurai to kind of behave by a certain code and behave honorably, not so much, not at this period in Japanese history. Back in 1274, during the actual Battle of Tsushima, they would have just done whatever it took to win.
Kill them all!
So the fighting here is kind of cool because, unlike some of the other games we've looked at, they're not kind of putting a fantasy spin on it. It doesn't seem like anyone has magic attacks or swords that can shoot fireballs or anything like that. All of it seems kind of based on real, actual combat, which is cool.
Run, cowards! Jin, what are you doing? Clearing the way. Not like that. Never like that. Face them as a warrior with honor.
There's a lot of emphasis on honor in this game, it seems, that is kind of imposing kind of a later era of samurai history onto an earlier historical moment.
Open fire! Shoot the horses! Shoot them!
Yes, there's really, more so than some of the other Japanese-themed games that we've looked at here, this really seems to be kind of going for realism to the battles. There's no ninja flying around doing special tricks. It's very kind of rooted in a kind of a gritty battle sensibility. Again, this seems to me very much inspired by Kurosawa Akira filmmaking. Things like Seven Samurai and Throne of Blood, Ran, those kind of classic Kurosawa samurai films.
I can find a way past the bridge. Poison the enemy.
So he's actually acting like we would expect someone in this era to act. He's gonna do whatever it takes, even if it resorts to poisoning the enemy.
I trained you to fight with honor.
What it is drawing on, I think, is this kind of tension between doing the honorable thing and doing the necessary thing. Doing what you want to do versus what you need to do or you're expected to do. This conflict is in Japanese, it's known as Giri and Ninjo, and it's kind of fodder for a lot of dramas and plays and works of literature where you kind of explore this tension between having to abide by a certain moral code, a rigid social code, but also doing what you want to do, what you feel is right, and those two things often conflict with each other. So it seems to be kind of drawing on that tradition a lot as well here. That was Ghost of Tsushima. A lot of love for classic Kurosawa samurai films in here as well, which I highly appreciate. Check out more Gamology videos on Facebook and YouTube. I'm Michael Crandol, and I'll be back to talk with you again about more Japanese-themed video games.